Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. So, what's going on with getting a job during COVID-19? I think it's been challenging for a lot of people and a lot of companies. Working from home. I actually had somebody that resigned after a year working for a company, and they said they only had met one person live and in person during that whole time. So, how you recruit people, how you train people, how you establish relationships, how you interact with people, how you get the team motivated, they're all issues that are relevant talking about. And so I wanted to reach out to Julia Blackburn. She's the founder and CEO of something called NPower Canada, which for about 7 years going has been an operation here doing recruiting in Canada. We want to talk a little bit about what it's all about. And we've also got Marco Chumacera. Is that correct?
Chumacero, that's correct.
Chumacera, who is an alumni of the program. He's going to tell us a little bit about what his background is and how it helped him. And if we make any mistakes, we got Nisha Lewis, the head of communications and media at NPower, that can jump in and tell us where we've gone wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, how are you? Welcome to our show tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Excellent.
Good to be here.
Julia, maybe you could start off and just tell us a little bit of background about what is NPower.
Sure. So NPower actually is a charity. We're a registered charity based, our headquarters is here in the GTA in Toronto. We have 4 sites here, but we're actually a national organization. We also have a site in Calgary. We just opened in Halifax, and we're working towards opening in September in British Columbia. So we are becoming a true national organization, pan-Canadian, but we actually started here in the GTA almost 7 years ago. And what we do is NPower is we're addressing youth unemployment and underemployment with the goal to reduce poverty. So we do that through a workforce development program that is evidence-based, and it's sector-based. We really only work in IT and give youth the IT skills they need to launch careers. So they're really sort of, NPower, I think of us as a bridge. We're a bridge between 2 problems. One is that there are lots and lots of eager, talented, driven, capable young people who just lack the skills and often just lack the access needed to really jump into a successful career. And this, really, they have multiple barriers that keep them from, obtaining financial freedom through a successful career. It really limits their opportunities to participate in the workforce, and build a strong future for their families. At the same time, on the other side, it's really your businessman. It's a supply and a demand issue, right? On the other side, we have businesses all across Canada that have an unbelievable amount of unfilled entry-level jobs, and they're looking for talent. So we act as the bridge between those two. So we take these youth into our program, 17 to 30 years old, with multiple barriers to employment. We provide them with no cost to them. We fund it all through donations, no cost industry informed skills training, professional skills training, soft skills training, industry credentials from organizations like Microsoft, Google, CompTIA. And then we actually place them in a job. That's our ultimate goal. It's not just training for training's sake or intervention based. We really want to get these youth into jobs, and then we follow them and support them for 5 years. So we're really, launching them into IT careers. And at the same time, there's a real economic development angle because we're helping address critical labor gaps. So that's pretty much how we operate.
Sounds fantastic.
Unique program.
I did a major study as part of the Mississauga Summit at one point in time, which I was honored to be the chair of. And we had this whole group of experts in social programs and employment and economic development and entrepreneurship and everything else come. And we had a good panel discussion. And at the end of it, one person stood up on the stage and said, the best social program, the most important social program that you can ever devise is getting someone a job so they can feel valued, so they can make money, so they can buy their own home or rent their own space, etc. So it sounds like you're doing that. So thank you for that. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Julia, Marco, and Nisha and NPower in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. We're chatting tonight about NPower Canada, which is an organization established about 7 years ago. It sounds like what it does is it really helps people that are challenged finding a job to learn some IT skills. And very importantly, what Julia Blackburn, the CEO of NPower, says is that not only do they teach the skills, but they get people jobs and they get them actual real world experience. One of the alumni of the program, Marco Chimacero, is with us tonight. Marco, what's your background? Tell us, did you try to find a job? Was it challenging finding a job? Where'd you come from? How'd you find NPower, and what did NPower do for you?
Of course, yes. I've had the pleasure to never not have a job. Now, with that being said, I started in the food and restaurant industry when I was about 19 years old. So I worked my way up to being bar manager. As soon as COVID happened, we all lost our jobs. Uncertainty came to me, fear for the future. I guess the realization that the industry wasn't something set in stone for me long term. The lack of benefits, the hours, the money was good, but nothing to build my future on. And the tech industry was something that I never even thought about, because for me it was like go to college for 4 years, get specialize in something else for another 2 years or so forth. And I do have 2 years of university. Now, due to like financial troubles that I experienced early on, I never had the opportunity. So like many, the service industry is a way to get ahead, at least in your early 20s. And I think like the pandemic as a whole made us, or a lot of us, realize that we had to kind of shift directions. And so, yeah, I actually found NPower through a social worker he's a friend of mine. And he reached out to me after I kind of talked to his friend about it, that I was interested in different types of programs, and I was introduced to NPower. The idea sounded interesting. I applied, kind of forgot about it. They reached out to me about like a month later. And so I went in with a little bit skeptical, because I've never heard of NPower, and you know what I mean. It's like, it was a little bit scary, and it was a Monday to Friday thing, but at that time I wasn't doing anything. I worked at a restaurant for maybe like part-time a couple of days a week, but then we closed again. So I had to focus, and that's why I decided to do with NPower. And my experience with NPower was amazing. Like, of course, the introduction to IT and the foundations was what I needed, but also the inspiration of our tutors was great as well. Like I always say NPower as a whole, when it teaches tech in general is great, but I think what we learned the most is those social skills that we need. Like I built my LinkedIn, for example. I developed my resume and my cover letter. I kind of like they have like they kind of help you psychologically as well, kind of rearrange your thoughts. And I think that's what helped myself and a lot of the other alumni. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, when I finished, I applied to several places, had several interviews, but I landed I think a decent job. I work for Touch Bistro as a bilingual product specialist, and I'm following into the tech industry because I'm heading towards coding, and I want to stay within the same industry, but within the same company as well. I have benefits, and I'm learning every day, and I think like that's what I enjoy the most. That there's hope, and I think that's what NPower brought to me in that short time.
Well, that sounds fantastic, Marco. You talked about the tutors that mentored you. How do you mentor virtually? Is that challenging?
I think because we're so used, at least my generation, we're so used to doing everything online, it wasn't as challenging. I think like the idea of it is at first, but it's the same thing as any other classroom. You have to be there on time. There's a code of conduct that you have to follow. So in terms of that, it's basically the same. The lack of physical interaction is kind of not for everyone. For me specifically, I'm like an introvert extrovert, so it works fine for me. It still felt.
What about
like
with your
yes, go ahead.
classmates? Because so much of college or university or training programs or or you mentioned learning social skills,
Of
comes
course.
from face-to-face interaction. How do you substitute that either at NPower or during COVID-19, which has got to make it even more challenging?
Yeah, I agree. I think like something that helped us a lot was morning scrum meetings. I think we had like little groups every 2 weeks that were constantly changing, and like each one of us in our group have had some sort of skill. And because the groups were small, we had time to focus on one another and kind of like approach things accordingly. I didn't want to be aggressive with what I knew. Working in the industry for so long, I kind of developed certain skills that I wanted to pass to other people that were either younger than me or had no experience. So the one-on-one Zoom calls with my other teammates or Google chats were very helpful, and I didn't see that much of a difference between real life and communicating from camera to camera. It was just all about auditory at the end of the day, and yeah, I think that helped. It helped us focus more, if anything.
Really, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. Well, congratulations.
Brian, if I can jump in and just say that, though originally our program was designed to be a bricks and mortar in classroom, youth came to us 5 days a week, pre-COVID. And like so many other businesses, we had to shift to a, virtual model virtually overnight. And we were nervous about how that was going to play out and how that was going to affect youth when we were so married to the model of having that face-to-face contact every day. And I have to say that actually several of our metrics, we went up. We shoot for an 80% graduation rate, for example. And our retention rate, our graduation rate went up just a couple of points, but nonetheless, there wasn't that, attrition that we thought maybe would come into play if we weren't able to motivate and engage youth in the same way that we had before. But all of our certification rates and ultimately even our placement rates, there was a little dip in employment at first, but it all bounced back. And we found that actually for some youth with disabilities, youth with young children, it was actually easier to be at home because it provided more flexibility than having to get themselves somewhere every day.
That makes a lot of
So it's a lot of really interesting learning and silver linings for the program itself.
What do you think you're going to do come September or next year when we're all vaccinated and schools open up? Are you going to go back to bricks and mortar, or are you going to stay virtual?
We're going to end up with a hybrid model. We've learned what works well in the virtual environment, and not everything does, but we're certainly not going back to full bricks and mortar. No, we think it's for some youth, it's going to be helpful to come in sometimes. But I think a lot of, for example, the technology training piece of it, works well in a virtual environment. Some of the more soft skills, practicing interviews and those kind of things can be done in person, some coaching, social worker meetings, things like that. So we're working on what a hybrid kind of model will look like. And we think we're really going to be able to reach, because we can do so much more virtually, we'll be able to reach more people.
Do youth at risk, do challenged youth have access to technology, to internet, to computers, et cetera?
Some did and some didn't. That's one of the things we needed to address right away. And in many ways, even like the public schools had to do here in Toronto, we had to do that as well. So for youth in our program that didn't have access to either reliable Wi-Fi or a laptop or a computer in their home, we have a loaner program. So
Right.
we provide them with sticks for Wi-Fi and we loan them a computer until they're able to find employment.
Excellent. And you say NPower is sort of a branch of a U.S. Operation. Tell us a little bit about that, if you could, Julia.
Yeah, so NPower Inc. Was founded actually quite some time ago in the US in 2001. Similar model, but not exactly the same. They have also a youth program like we have. They also have another track for veterans in the US, where they provide a slightly different model, but similar idea. Veterans coming out of service that need to transition into a different kind of employment. So we were part of an expansion that they went through in 2014. When they were looking around, they were expanding across the US and just saw Toronto as a city that was kind of really ripe for that type of program. There wasn't anything quite like us here. Youth unemployment was quite high, yet there were a lot of, with the financial sector and the telecommunications organization companies that were here, there were quite a few entry-level job opportunities we could train for. So I was hired at that time. In Canada, we have a completely Canadian, we're sort of sister organizations, right? We're related, but operate separately. So we launched NPower Canada and have been really working to scale the program ever since.
And you say it's a charity.
Yes, we're a registered charity.
How do you raise your money?
It's a combination of government, foundations, and corporations. It's pretty well balanced among those. So we have funding from all levels of government, including each of the provinces that we're based in, and some really great corporate sponsors, everyone from Accenture, most of the big banks, RBC, TD, CIBC, all sponsors of our organization. So it's quite a diverse group of funders and very generous.
And does the N in NPower stand for anything?
It does. Actually, originally, the organization that was founded in the US in 2001, we're training youth to work in nonprofit organizations. So it actually stood for nonprofit power because they were specifically helping nonprofits build capacity with technology by training youth to work for them. But we kind of moved away and work more in, we do work with some nonprofits, but it sort of morphed into a feeder talent for corporations.
Mostly tech now.
Yes. Well, it's always been really focused on technology and technical skills, which, you know, we talk about being sector-based in the technology sector, but really tech is everywhere now.
Yeah.
I mean, our top employers aren't necessarily tech companies. Some of them are, but we also work with all of the big banks, all the telecommunications companies, Accenture, you know, lots of managed service organizations. So we have a very broad range. I mean, we have over 1,500 youth that'll come through the program this year. And so it's a very, you know, broad range of talent in that pool. So we also need a very—
That's a lot.
It is. Yeah, that's national. But yeah, it's a lot for an organization that we started in late 2014 that was designed to serve 100 youth a year, period.
Wow.
But we really wanted to scale it. So we've gone both broad in terms of going across the country and then also deep into each community, opening as many sites as we could and maximizing each site.
Okay,
so 1,500 youth will come through this year. It's exciting.
Nisha, Julia's just lobbed you a beautiful softball here. You know, you were targeting only 100. You're now at 1,500. How do you do it? How do you get out? How do you reach out to attract all these potential students? Or do you call them students, Nisha, or what do you call them?
We actually call them participants, so they're program participants. But how we reach them, we work with a lot of community partners. So in Peel Region, Mississauga, we work with a lot of the community agencies that are working with youth to let them know about the program. They can refer youth into the program. Additionally, we are on social media. We're on Instagram. We're at NPower Canada across all of our social media channels. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we find that that's been very effective for us in terms of reaching young people. We've also do some online advertising that also helps us reach young people throughout right across the country, actually. But we do have a site. We're in the GTA in Ontario. We're in Toronto, in Mississauga and Peel region. York region, but we also service youth now in London, Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge, Kingston, Ontario, as well as Hamilton and Halton region.
Well, that's great, Nisha. So if people are interested that are listening to the show, how do they contact you?
The best thing to do is go to the website. So npowercanada.ca. And all the information is there. The application form is online. And people can also reach out to admissions at NPower Canada to find out more information if they have questions. But we break down what the programs are, what the eligibility criteria is, and the application right on the website.
Fantastic. NPower.ca.
NPowerCanada.ca. NPowerCanada.ca.
NPowerCanada.ca. But Marco, you found out about it through a buddy.
Yes. My
So
buddy's friends,
the coffee chat or drinking at a bar or wherever you found out about it still works.
It still works. And to be honest, people have been messaging me about the program just because they saw the article. I have an article that came out on the Financial Post. And surprisingly, a lot of people reached out on my LinkedIn from all over Canada. And I've been directing them to the website and helping them with whatever advice I can give them.
Excellent. You know, it's interesting. I get a lot of views of my shows on LinkedIn, more than I ever dreamt of, particularly if it's got a business or economic orientation. Nisha, how do you reach out to the companies that either you want to get to sponsor you or to take your participants as employees?
You know, we have a fantastic team at NPower Canada that really helps connect with employers. They actually work really hard to match the youth to the employer. So what are the skills that the employers are looking for? What tech skills as well as personal and professional skills? And then they really work to match with youth with employers. We have a great industry council that helps inform our curriculum and helps make sure that the curriculum matches what industry is looking for. But they also have been really key, and our board and other corporate partners, in helping us to connect with employers. And it's really spread word of mouth quite remarkably. I think when we started 7 years ago, employers were like, well, this seems like a nice idea, but will it work? And now we have employers like Accenture who've hired 70 to 100 of our youth and are actively promoting us to their partners as well.
Well, that's excellent. Sounds like it's your outreach, marketing, and media communications is doing a great job. So I'm going to ask Julia to give you a promotion.
Great.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Julia, Nisha, and Marco, and NPower Canada. Understand a little bit more about the curriculum because one of the issues that I'm really been focused on lately is this idea of this fourth industrial revolution and how it can potentially change almost everything that we do, and that we've got to teach everybody, our youth included, obviously, but everybody a little bit more about technology because it could, it's changed us and it could change us even more. Anyway, stay with us. We're going to be back after a few messages. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. We're talking to Julia Blackburn, Marco Kumachera, Nisha Lewis, all from NPower. At least two of them are from NPower, and one of them is an alumnus of NPower and the education program they've got going on. NPower Canada is an organization that takes youth. It sounds like underprivileged or challenged youth, but frankly, it sounds like almost anyone as well, that needs to get some training in technology and get them a little push, a little help to get a new job in some technology field. Julia, lots of people have been talking about this fourth industrial revolution, and that the fourth industrial revolution is going to all be about artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, advanced manufacturing, digital media, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know that the use of digital media has gone up, or digital anything has gone up dramatically in the last year because of COVID-19. And some people talk about us, accelerating 8 years or 10 years of what we would have done from a digital standpoint in a year because we've all been living at home. And at the same time, people are really worried about underprivileged youth. I had a person on a week ago from an Indigenous community that said that the reality is internet access into Indigenous communities was non-existent, that the lack of technology in areas like Jane and Finch and elsewhere was far lower than we'd expect. And real concern that we were going to create this digital divide between people that had access to technology and access to the internet and access to computers and people that didn't. And also, I had another person on that was talking a lot about how females wouldn't get involved in STEM occupations and STEM education. And that if we had this fourth industrial revolution and everyone was going to need to know about technology, females, on average, were going to be left behind. What have you done about that? Excuse me.
Well, we're doing quite a bit about all of those things because that's really why we're here, is to take people that don't have access and give them access, and not just access to the training, but access to employers and access to careers. So there's a lot to unpack there, but let's start with female representation. In traditionally in the IT field, you may have 24-25% female representation. We from the very beginning said we want to have gender parity in our program. And that was not an easy goal to reach. And we've never been quite to 50%, but we're anywhere 42, 43% female representation in our program. It's not as easy as sell technology to women. I think that's true, what you said. But once the women come into the program and they understand that there's a broad range of opportunity under the umbrella of technology, digital or IT or however whatever you want to call it, there's lots of opportunity. It's not all about sitting in a back room in the dark code, writing code. That digital careers or careers that need some digital skills or technical skills, there's a broad range of opportunities. So we feel like we've done pretty well at 42, 43% of female representation in the program, and we're really, really proud of that.
What about your teaching staff? What's your ratio there?
Of men to women, I think it's about half. Actually, overall, our organization is much more female-led than male. But the teaching staff itself, it's about half. So yeah, we have a very diverse, staff. It's really reflective of the population that we serve, really at all levels.
What about this issue of technology access for underprivileged children? You think that it's something that lots of schools have had to address, as you mentioned earlier in the show. How have you dealt with that?
Yeah, well, we had to deal with it really in the same way as making sure there was an even, a level playing field for all of the youth in the program. We didn't want some youth who, may not have access to a computer, but maybe they have a phone and they're at home trying to study, off of their phone. I mean, it's not really fair. It's not really an equal playing field. So if we're trying to provide access, then everyone needs to have the same access to technology. And that was just an expense line. And we had the laptop computers that we could loan out until youth are on their feet. But in terms of providing, Wi-Fi sticks, because there was no reliable internet in the household, that's just an expense that, we had to add to our budget as a part of doing business, in COVID, which we didn't, an expense we didn't have before. But if we're going to have, parity and fairness across the board and the program, then that was something that we just had to do.
Markham, let me turn to you if I could. What do you think? Is technology something that's equal between males and females, or is primarily something that is only of interest to males? And how do we change that if it is? And is it something that's only really available to the rich or to the at least middle income and rich, or does everyone have access?
So I'll answer that in two parts. The first part is I think it's been generalized for mainly men as like the dorky type to approach technology, but
that's a technical term, dorky, right?
Yeah, but that's not true at all. Like majority of people that I know that code are actually female. Now that is a minority overall, but the introduction of technology is happening little by little in schools. They're understanding that knowing how to code, how to understand the internet and what's coming ahead is going to be a handicap if you don't have it. So, and I think this applies to everyone in society. It does a disservice to kind of like just focus on the male population and technology. When it came, what's the second question? I apologize.
Income.
I forgot.
Income.
Income.
This as are people in more challenged economic situations as open to learning technology and as interested in learning technology, or is that a big challenge?
I think it's a lot easier now, especially with courses like NPower, with opportunities like these. Of course, Google as well is helping us achieve those goals through Coursera and other programs like that. Before, perhaps maybe 5 to 10 years ago, people had the idea that they had to have a university degree to go into the technology industry, and that's not the case anymore. So no, I think like we're in an era where like the playing field is a little bit more leveled, and anyone has access to learning. It's all about the individual. Like myself, I love instruction. Sometimes I need someone to push me, and that's what NPower did for me.
Julia, what are some of the courses that you provide?
Well, we have a couple of different program streams, some just different and some more advanced. We have our junior IT analyst stream, which is sort of my mother would call our bread and butter. It's where most of the youth come into the program. It's really training you for a broad variety of skills, everything from someone who might be desk side support, or even in data analyst or junior programmer. That's a certification. All of our all of our streams are based on input from our employers. What are the employers looking for? What are the skills that they need? And that particular one is certification is a Google IT professionals certification. So there is an industry certification attached to each of our program streams. There's also a new program stream, junior data analyst, that we really co-developed with Microsoft. Again, that one's a Microsoft, of course, credential. And then we also have a junior security and QA tester, and that's the CompTIA Security Plus certification. So there are a couple of different streams depending on the interests of the youth and their background and skills. And we stream them into those various streams. I think the most important element, though, of it is everything we do is informed by industry. You know, you started off the segment talking about, you know, people are talking about artificial intelligence and what's the future going to look like. And, you know, I think there are a lot of predictions that are being made, but for us, it's not about predictions. We try to look down the road, but for us, the most important thing we feel that we can do to be successful is listen to the employers. Everything that we do in our curriculum development and in our training program is informed by the employers that need to fill jobs, because we can train until we're blue in the face. But if we're not, you know, training these youth with the skills the employers need, we can't make the match. We can't get them a job, and then we're failing, because our ultimate goal is to into a meaningful job that has a career potential for them. So we spend a lot of time interviewing and listening to employers and what are the skills and the industry certifications that they're looking for. And our program streams have changed, you know, over the years based on what we're hearing at any given time.
You know, that's interesting, because one of the criticisms of university is that they train people not mindful of what the needs of industry and business are. So it sounds like you're doing something dramatically different than most post-secondary education does.
Yeah, I think it is different. We also, because we're not a large institution like that, we're able to be more agile. And, you know, changing curriculum at a university is a process, right? For us, we've had employers call us 3-4 weeks into a 15-week program and say, you know, gee, if your youth in this cohort knew about this particular program, they don't have to be certified, but if they understood it, then, you know, I need to hire 20 people when you're done. And we're able to be that agile to say, okay, is this something we can pull into the curriculum quickly, prepare these youth to be ready to step into these interviews as soon as we're done with the training segment. So I think agility, you know, really bring to the table.
And your typical program is 15 weeks?
That's right.
Night, day?
Well, it's changing over time. We'll see how that hybrid model comes about. But traditionally, it's been, you know, in classroom 5 days a week, you know, in the mornings. We always felt it was important to show youth that you had to, as Marco pointed out earlier, to show up on time, prepared to work every day. I always say to our youth, this isn't school. This is a job interview. You know, you really need to, you know, you need to treat this as if you're at work and you're at a job interview every day. You can't just skip class, because it's not class. It's, you know, we're evaluating your employability skills and which employers we're going to put you forward to. So usually it's a 5 day a week, you know, in classroom experience. But now it's just online. Do
you track your placement ratio?
Yes.
And what success do you get there?
It ranges between 80 and 83% placement, and that's within 12
universities. Do you know?
I don't know, but I know that we, you know, we seek to have everyone employed, 80+% employed within 12 months. We usually are down to like 3 to 6 months. COVID pushed that out a little bit for a couple of cohorts, but usually within 6 months, we've reached that at least 80% mark.
One of the criticisms of some American private schools, private colleges, was that they were able to goose their placement ratio by persuading people to quit during the program, so that they weren't part of the graduating classes. So therefore, if they weren't going to get jobs, they weren't counted as part of the people that didn't get jobs. What is your completion ratio?
It's also 80%. So we measure both. So 80% of the youth that come into the program complete the training. And of those, another 80% goes on to be placed within 6 to 12 months.
And have most people graduated from high school, or do you take people that have dropped out?
Yeah, no, well, you have to have a minimum requirement to come in the program is a GED or high school or GED equivalency is a minimum to come into the program.
What do we do with people that don't complete high school?
Well, we have youth that come to us that say, "Oh, you're just like the perfect, program for me." But we can't take everyone. We have to have a certain criteria that we work within. So we never send anyone away without a warm referral. So if someone comes to us and says, they might otherwise be a good fit for the program, but they haven't finished their GED, we say, "Here, you go over here and complete your GED." Or maybe they come to us and we don't feel that they're mature enough, or their English language skills, they're not ready. We have a certain, a list of criteria, but we always say, if we think they're otherwise a good candidate, here we have a list. The social worker says, "Here, we want you to send you over here. I'm going to call them," and we do that warm referral to another agency that can help them and then get them ready for our program.
That's fascinating. It sounds like a great program. Marco, you were saying that there was like a lot of different social things that you were taught. Was there an actual class on how to do a LinkedIn resume, or was that just an add-on, or what?
Yes, actually, it switched to, I believe it was every Monday, and then it switched to Wednesdays. It's actually our PD day, which is our personal development day. One thing that resonates to this day is just a small phrase that was basically trust the process, and that just it's true. It's a matter of like, so when you start the program, you're kind of skeptical because it's so like new to you, especially if you're not into tech. But as the weeks pass by, you get comfortable and you start learning that there's different branches within technology. You kind of start understanding what that means. So yes, definitely that is that specific day did sometimes more than maybe a whole year in college, that all I would do was memorize and just pass my grades and have high GPA and all that. But building your resume is very important. Building your cover letter, building those interpersonal skills, those phone skills.
What interpersonal skills would they have taught you?
So I think I'm not really a shy person, but when it came to interpersonal skills, it was more like focusing on how to approach or minimize a conversation in an interview, for example, not prolonging it or providing too much information and keeping it short and concise, and things like that kind of like help you in an interview and kind of make you stand out.
Really, that's fascinating. Sounds like it's a great program. I congratulate all of you for bringing it forward. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just a minute with Julia, Marco, and Nisha with some concluding comments. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Sagan and 60. We're chatting tonight with Julia Blackburn, who is the founder and president of the Canadian division of NPower, which is an organization that provides education training for youth in IT and helps them get a job. She's got an 80% plus completion ratio and an 80% plus placement ratio. So it sounds like she's doing her job. Nisha Lewis, who's head of media and communications for that organization, and Marco Chumachero, who is a alumni and has penned a article in what was it, the Financial Post, that you penned the article, and has got tons of attention on LinkedIn, where people are reaching out to him and asking him for some advice, etc. Julia, some people think that artificial intelligence and the technology and stuff like that are going to take jobs away from our youth. I spoke with one person in the accounting profession, and they thought that 50% of entry-level accounting jobs would be gone in the next 5 years because of the impact of technology. It's kind of scary. How do you think that we need to deal with that?
Well, scary, but I think that, doesn't history show us that when one set of jobs go away, another set of jobs appears? I mean, phone operators went away, but their other jobs came about, right? So it doesn't keep me up at night, because I also, am running an organization where we're training youth with IT skills, and we're placing them in industries, all over the country, in all types of industries. So, don't entry-level jobs almost anywhere now involve some type of digital skill or some type of digital knowledge. And so as long as we can keep working with employers to understand their needs and the labor market, as long as we can continue to understand that labor market, then we're going to be able to continue to develop curriculum to train youth and place them into those jobs. So I'm optimistic.
Marco, I presume you're reasonably young, faced with COVID-19, faced with changing technology environment, etc. Are you scared? Are you positive and optimistic? Tell me about the attitude of the typical person your age. You're on mute.
There we go. Yes. Yeah, I'm positive mainly because humans adapt. And I think like the introduction to courses like this is only the stepping stone to many careers. One career might be obsolete in 10 years, but because you were in that career for 10 years, you found 10 other possibilities and you branched out. And I think like that's what technology is doing for us. We've seen it on YouTube. We've seen it with media, how it's transitioned from TV to online. Like it's constantly changing. Again, we can't predict what's going to happen, but I can't predict that we will be fine and we'll manage.
Nisha, when are you taking in your next group of students? How do they apply? How do I get information? And if I want to donate and give money, what do I do?
So all of that can happen on our website, NPowerCanada.ca. And there we have information on all of the programs that Julia spoke about, the Junior IT Analyst Program, the Junior Data Analyst Program, and the Junior Security and Quality Assurance Analyst. As well, applications happen directly on the website. So people can go to the website, apply for the program. And our next, we intake 3 times of the year. So typically we have programs that'll run. There's one that's just started here in June and it's going to run till September. Our next program starts in September, runs to December. Then we start again in January after the break, and that runs till May. So that's typically our cycle for our programs. But people can apply at any time and certainly find out more information online.
And remind me the cost?
There is no cost.
No cost. What a deal.
Exactly. It's actually the best deal in education that you can find. There is no cost, and that really is attributed to our funders. We've got some great support from the federal and provincial governments, as well as from organizations like Google, Microsoft, RBC, BlackRock. We've got a number of supporters that really see the value in the program and then help us take it forward and help us have it available to more and more youth across the country.
Remind us about that website one last time.
NPowerCanada.ca.
NPowerCanada.ca. Well, Nisha Lewis, Julia Blackburn of NPower Canada, and Marco Chumacera, an alumnus of the program. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and telling us a little bit about this program. I got to tell you, I think that I am a little nervous for our youth in the future. I do think that digitization and technology is going to make it more challenging to get entry-level jobs in the future. And if you don't get that entry-level job, I worry that you don't get the skills, you don't get the networking, you don't get the education that you need. And so I think technology is going to become critically important for people to have some basis of understanding and comfort in. And I think that you are doing a great job because finding people that are challenged and can't afford the big high prices of the community colleges and other places where they can get training in the private schools, the private colleges, deserving people are out there. And therefore you are, breaking down that divide of income level and the divide of gender and race and just, attitudes. Different communities have different attitudes toward education and bettering yourself. And I think you're breaking those down. I think all of those are laudable objectives. And so thank you for what you're doing in that regard. And I'd love to check in with you, sometime in the future and find out how it's all going.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having all of us. We really appreciate it and appreciate your interest, and we'll come back anytime.
Well, that's our show for tonight. It's the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. You can catch me every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 on your AM dial, or you can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videocasts are available after the fact on briancrombie.com, and videos on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. I'm not on TikTok yet, Marco, so you may not be able to get me. Or someone told me about something that gamers are on that I'm not on yet. Well, that's it. I got to get on that one. And all my podcasts are on Audible and Apple Podcasts and Speakeasy. So you can find me almost anywhere. Please check me out. Julia Blackbird, Marco Chimisero, Nisha Lewis. Thanks for joining us. That's my show for tonight, everyone.
My pleasure.
Good night.